The Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. Note for the audience with the Holy Father, 13th of November, 2023, the request of His Excellency, the Most Reverend Julito Cortez. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation of his name there. On membership in Freemasonry by the Catholic faithful. Recently, His Excellency, after explaining with concern the situation caused in his diocese by the continuous rise in the number of faithful enrolled in Freemasonry, asked for suggestions regarding how to respond to this reality suitably from a pastoral point of view, taking into account also the doctrinal implications related to this phenomenon. So, how do we approach people pastorally who are struggling with this issue in light of the doctrinal problems surrounding Freemasonry? Membership in Freemasonry is very significant in the Philippines. It involves not only those who are formally enrolled in Masonic lodges, but more generally a large number of sympathizers and associates who are personally convinced that there is no opposition between membership in the Catholic Church and in Masonic lodges. To address this appropriately, it was decided that the dicastery would respond by involving the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines itself, notifying the conference that it would be necessary to put in place a coordinated strategy among the individual bishops that envisions two approaches. Now, here it is. On the doctrinal level, it should be remembered that active membership in Freemasonry by a member of the faithful is forbidden because of the irreconcilability between Catholic doctrine and Freemasonry. And then they even point us to the 1983 Declaration on Masonic Associations by the same congregation and the guidelines published by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Philippines in 2003. Again, if this had gone the other way, you would hear all about it. But because it went this way, silence, crickets, you don't hear anything. It's contrary to the infiltration narrative. And so you're not hearing about it as much as you would have heard if it had gone the other way. Now, I do want to say, I imagine at some point you will hear about this from the radical traditionalists. They'll be relatively slow to address it, but at some point they'll address it. But I'm pretty sure they're going to put a spin on it. They'll figure out some way to maneuver this thing, put a spin on it, and have headlines that says Bishop Fernandez and Pope Francis approve of Freemasonry. They'll figure out some way to twist this thing. Mark my words. Mark my words. They'll figure out a way. But you'll know better because you've actually read through the document. Therefore, those who are formally and knowingly enrolled in Masonic lodges and have embraced in Masonic principles fall under the provisions in the above-mentioned declaration. Ooh, and you'll want to look at those measures, right? Because one of them includes excommunication. These measures also apply to any clerics enrolled in Freemasonry. Bam! Addressing that one too. On the pastoral level, the dicastery proposes that the Philippine bishops conduct catechesis acceptable to the people and in all parishes regarding the reasons for irreconcilability between the Catholic faith and Freemasonry. So help them understand why the church has this position. Don't just tell them here's the answer and that's it. No, help them understand why. Finally, the Philippine bishops are invited to consider whether they should make a public pronouncement on the matter. From an audience on the day of November 13th, 2023. So that was 2 days ago. Fernandez and bam, Francis. Right there. Love it. Francis. So you can't question, oh, is this really magisterial? Is this really authoritative? Yes, it is. Right there. The Holy Father. Now tell me again that Pope Francis is a Freemason. Now tell me again he's infiltrated the church. Tell me again that Fernandez is a Freemason. Oh, it's probably the case that they're really undercover Freemasons, you see? And this is the way of covering and hiding their tracks so they can operate in the shadows. They condemn Freemasonry so that they're not as conspicuous because they're Freemasons themselves. I bet you'll see these kinds of spins being promoted by the pseudo traditionalists relatively soon. You'll probably see that. In other words, no matter what is said, no matter what is done, they can't win. The Pope can't win. Not with some people, because they take an approach of suspicion, and they can never just say, okay, that evidence, maybe that changes things, and maybe I need to rework my paradigm and narrative and my impression here. Yeah, a lot of people don't do that. They don't rework, do things. Some people do. Some people do. A lot of people don't, though. So be ready. Soon they'll start addressing it, and they'll put some kind of spin on it, and they'll say, well, you see, it didn't say this, or, oh no, this is just a plot to infiltrate the church by condemning Freemasonry, but really approving of it in the condemnation of it. And they'll figure out a way to spin it. Mark my words. And I hope I'm wrong about that. I'd love to be wrong and to come back on here maybe a week or two from now and say, well, you know what? I didn't hear any fake news being spun about this document. Hey, I was wrong, y'all. I was kind of gun shy and, missed the mark on that one. I'd love to come back and say that. We'll see, though.